Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reinventing Mental Health. Thank you for joining us today. We are talking about root causes for mental health and then functional treatments, as well as exploring people's personal journeys. So today I have with us my friend Janet Alexander. She is currently running a tutoring center that is actually up for an award. We just went in and helped with the nominations. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you got here.
Sure. So, Janet, hello. I am a former public school teacher dropout. That whole story started when I was about a little kid, I guess about 7 or 8 years old, and I could not read. So in a public school system in America, I was really finding great difficulty with people meeting my needs. Today, I would have identified as a neurodivergent kid. I have some spectrumy tendencies, some ADHD tendencies, definitely some dyslexic tendencies. And in addition to that, I was also an English as a second language child. So the culmination of it really set me up to decide, okay, when I grow up, I don't want kids to feel this way. I don't want them to feel the stress and the overwhelm and the identities of not feeling like they're enough and wondering if they're ever going to catch up. So that being the case, I made a promise to myself to become an educator. And when I got into the school systems, I understood why it happened to me.
So talk about that a little bit, because you know I'm a homeschool mom. I pulled my kids out of public school for some very specific reasons. So what was your experience?
So when I became a teacher, in the very first couple weeks, I was able to identify that I had tons of kids in my class with academic skills gaps. At the time, I was teaching a second grade classroom, and I had children who were still functioning, missing phonetic representations of their letters, and some of them didn't have formations of their letters, and we were asking them to read. We were putting second grade curriculum before them, and I remember this one baby saying, "What?" At the time, my name was Miss Haslauer. It's not that anymore. "Miss Haslauer, I can't read this. What are you trying to do to me? What are we doing to you? It feels so cruel. Why would they force me to give this to you knowing you couldn't do it?"
Out of the mouths of babes, right?
Oh my gosh. So it made so much sense. I was out of alignment with it. I tried to put in a little bit more time, and then I became a stay-at-home mom and started to learn so much more about those cognitive processes that you get to see in that intimate setting of motherhood that you don't get to learn on the job as a teacher. I'm sorry, it's just not the same to have that individualized attention. Years past, I went on to buy an education franchise company, and I kind of lived in trouble there for not following their rules. You know, I'd see an opportunity to give something to a child that they needed in addition to the system, and I'd be told repeatedly by our mentors in the company, no, or the management, do not give anything outside of our curriculum to these children.
Goodness.
And I just felt so out of alignment with this dynamic that I really had to leave that as well. I had a surprise divorce, started having parents knock on my door. I had 5 kids at my kitchen table. I had 11 kids in the day, and before you knew it, I had 20, and then probably having about 100, 120 kids out of my kitchen a week. Yeah. So that's how I eventually became Hearts and Minds Learning Center.
Okay.
And that's what we're working to do today. Today we probably work with about 200 kids a year. I've worked with about 2,000 kids to date.
Okay.
And we primarily focus on intervention-based teaching. It's very explicit, very intentional, but most importantly, it's based on relational dynamics for children. They have to feel that rapport with their teachers in order to want to learn.
Oh, absolutely. The number of kids that come to our practice and they hate their teachers. For one reason or another, sometimes it's nothing massive. Maybe it's a tone of voice or a look that they got at one point in time, but that's all it takes for them to shut down, not want to learn.
Yeah, and for these types of kids, right, they have this tendency to get polarized over one tiny thing.
Yeah.
And if there isn't repair and there isn't that strong communication and they don't have the adult taking the lead on that initiation of the repair, it's hard for them to re-engage.
Because they've lost trust at that point.
Absolutely. So what I'm noticing is an unusual, and I'm sure you're seeing this, an unusual amount of kids with education trauma And these adaptive behavior dynamics or compensations start to show up where they check out of the body, they lose focus, they're struggling. And I know you can speak so much more to the mental health component and the functional health. But what we're noticing is those adaptive behaviors, that the way that they're trying to adapt to the scenario does look like that fight, fawn, freeze, right? It looks like I have to self-preserve. I cannot do this.
And at home in the morning, like when those families come to my practice, and these are often the families that are coming to our office saying, my kid has severe anxiety in the morning before school. And even sometimes the night before, they don't want to go to bed because there's fear about what's going to happen at school the next day. They've got stomach aches. Some of them are bedwetting again.
Oh, yeah.
Because the anxiety is so bad. And parents don't understand. They cannot wrap their head around why anxiety is so high for this kiddo.
Oh, my gosh. And I get it. As a kid, I did struggle on and off with suicidal ideation because it just felt so overwhelming. I didn't know how I would ever accomplish it or get it done or hold my head above water. And I would because I'm a worker. And I do have that work ethic, but my work ethic was born from fear. Right. But even today, I left an ARD meeting just feeling so sick to my stomach because they were discussing in a special education resource dynamic. They're discussing, your child currently is functioning at around this 50% accuracy at a 4th grade level. And so we're just going to keep working here until we can get, start working on 5th grade level. And what I wanted to tell this teacher, and I couldn't to some degree, was that if we're really going to help this kid, you're going to have to go back to 1st and 2nd grade. Right. Because if you don't rewrite their relationship to learning, if you don't convince their mind that they're capable, they will never want to engage.
Yeah, so we do neurofeedback, and we have quite a few kids with dyslexia. And when we do dyslexia protocols, when they come in for a neurofeedback appointment, we have them read and then rate how difficult it is. And we do a session, and we have them read again and rate how difficult it is. And we should see inside of one session improvement. So if they've rated it as a 4, very difficult, we should at least get to a 3 by the end of doing that protocol. Unfortunately for some of these kiddos, the conversation that we have to have with the parents is, it's not that the brain is not repairing from the neurofeedback training. It's that your child is so used to failure and to being told that they're still doing it wrong, that there's fear. So when they go back to school, even though their brain can read and comprehend because of the work that they're doing with us, they're not showing that at school because they're so used to that message.
Oh, yeah. And that message is going to fire, right? Like the basal ganglia is going to totally commit to a new pattern and a new memory of whatever was the most frequent exposure to that experience. Whatever feelings they tied to it, it's just living in the emotional body. Yeah. And when we look at these kids, one of the things that we do within our program is we dedicate the first portion of it to just a task that increases in difficulty.
Right.
And we're really working to build their confidence. And so one of the things that I oftentimes do frustrate with our school systems is that, and I mean this in the kindest and most loving way, I feel like sometimes our teachers are worried that they're not getting enough done. And to some degree, our kids will pick up on it. And they won't feel like enough. Now I want you to think about that in parenthood. Even some of the parents, we often coach parents as well at our company, and we'll get into that dialogue of, listen, I just told you we raised your child's grade levels, 2.5 grade levels in 6 months. Your kid's now reading just above grade level. Yeah, but I don't hear them reading at this, what about this word? And they're struggling with that word. I'm like, could you let what has been done be enough? Yeah.
And right now there is a message to parents that you're supposed to do more, be more, participate in more. And so my kids right now, they're 17 and 20. But when they were young, I remember weeks where they'd get out of school and we had 11 extracurricular activities between 3 kids. And I look back at that now and I'm like, yeah, they had amazing experiences. They were doing horseback riding and soccer and dance and all of these really, really fun things. But how much damage did we have to actually do in like pushing them to be better, be more, all of these things that we were told that are not necessarily true. Did they have enough downtime? Did they have enough of the messages that they were good enough?
Sure.
Or were we always sending them the message? And I would not say that it was ever intentional that we were sending a message that you weren't good enough or that you needed to be better at something. But what were we accidentally sending that message?
Sure. And then every child would take it so differently.
Yep.
But, I believe there's a lot of research behind what you're saying, too. I can't remember this woman's name. She's the author of Chicken Little.
Okay.
Do you remember that movie? There's a stressed out chicken and Earth is being invaded.
The sky is falling,
Yeah, the
right?
sky is falling.
Yep.
That's what it is. Super precious book, but she's a psychologist, and she really does stress to parents, listen, if your child has ADHD, I don't want you to run to just medicate them. Can you please hire practitioners that can help you get to the root source of the stressors that led to these adaptive behavior responses?
Right.
So if you're not getting to the root of the issue, if you're not paying attention to these pathways or the functions that got us there, then you're constantly going to be looking for ways to just Band-Aid and surface patch the real scenario. So yeah, we are in this society right now where more is great, and get in them, even college applications. I can't believe what I see parents writing on pages of, we have to have volunteer hours, and we have to be able to be involved in this event, and we have to have a certain amount of sports and all of these clubs with schools, and we have to show that we've put in an initiative. And I think to myself, when do these kids sleep?
Well, not only that, are all these activities that you're pushing them to do and this degree that you're pushing them to have, do they even want it?
And I think that I've met plenty of kids that do, but I don't even know if they know why they want it.
Because what if the message, they've always just been told that's who you are and that's what you're supposed to do.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
they now own that.
Yeah, absolutely. But gosh, that whole message of who you are and this is how it is, or this is what you're supposed to do, volumes to kids. And these are the babies that I really do think about, the ones that have taken messages without us as a society, as school systems, as educators, as parents. We didn't mean to send it to them.
Right.
But for these kids that are struggling, imagine what that's like. You are sent in an institution where for 8 hours a day, you are reminded of how hard it is for you. And I tell you this because a lot of my own adult work, my own inner work as an adult to do what I have managed to do, to overcome obstacles in my own life, have all had this root source.
Yeah. Oh, so I have it tattooed on me to remind myself I am enough.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't think I have 5 sisters. I don't think the message was ever intentional that I wasn't enough or that I wasn't good enough at something or I needed to be better at things. But that was how I interpreted everything, was that I needed to be better. I needed to try harder. I needed to have the best grades. I needed all of these things to be put in place. And that turned into perfectionism for me. And then as an adult, my work, that ended up with me getting the tattoo to remind myself anytime I start to have imposter syndrome, I just remind myself that I'm enough, because the reality is nobody is perfect. Perfect is a fantasy. And I was never told that I wasn't enough. So there's no reason for me to be holding that particular trait or thought pattern.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating because there is no reason.
Yep.
But it's these small moments in time in our households, in play exchanges, in the school systems, and in other varying dynamics, even in sports and extracurriculars, where that child just has that one moment. And we may not even be privy to the experience of it or find out about it for 10 or 20 years later as the adults, that they just fragmented from one polarized thought.
Yeah, and it could have been something so small.
Oh, yeah.
That was said or done, and that sent that message.
Absolutely.
And just reminder, parents, that are watching this, we are all just people, and that includes parents.
Yeah.
So there is no chance of us as parents getting everything exactly right.
No.
As a therapist with kids, I can tell you, even I cannot get everything right. And I know all of the psychology, I know all the theories.
Yeah.
There are times that I mess up because I'm also just a person. That's the reality of life.
And there's certain things that I even noticed, like my son had struggles with like infantile trauma. We had a scenario that we had to keep cleaning a wound when he was a very young baby.
Yep.
And, you know, the relationship between mother and son already started to skew there. Can I trust this woman? She comes in to hurt me every day.
Yep.
My intention wasn't to hurt my child.
Right, you were caring for him, but he didn't know that.
Absolutely. He wouldn't have known that. There was just a correlation of how our relationship started.
Yep.
And so then I noticed some of those behaviors that can oftentimes be labeled as the ADHD started to show until we started to do more inner work around it and started to really work on our relationship. And I did express, I reminded him, just like he's almost 17 now, I talked to him about it about a year ago, and I said, listen, when you were a baby, I want to tell you something that happened. And I don't know if you remember this, obviously you were so little, but I do feel that there were certain things there that made it difficult for us to find each other.
Yeah.
And so your mother's heart, of course, I adore you, but feeling that correlation was definitely showing for years when he was little. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not like it's intentional. And then not only that, I've had plenty of moments where I didn't quite hit the nail on the head as a mom.
We can't always.
No, we really can't. It's not possible. And so one of the greatest things that I love doing for our own kids now and our parents is, what does it look like to just walk in some grace and just accept where we are and make decisions from this moment forward, or design curriculums from where we're functioning, get therapies from what would be a good support system, seek out medicine, functional medicine preferred in my personal opinion, right? That is more of a holistic approach to assisting the child as opposed to continuing to mask. Yeah.
In our therapy practice, I often come across high school students that do not know how to read, but they have been pushed through the school system.
Oh, yeah.
So when I see this and I hear this, I am reminded of the No Child Left Behind program.
Oh, yeah.
So what, as an educator, did you see with this particular program? Because it's devastating to me to see a teenager who cannot read or write, but is in the 9th or 10th grade.
It actually breaks my heart. I see it regularly, and let me tell you what, I even see it living in a super affluent neighborhood with what is supposedly one of the highest performing school districts. I'm seeing inflated grades. So let me go back to No Child Left Behind.
Yep.
So the initiative of No Child Left Behind really was for American schools to decide that they decided that it was unjust how some school systems overperformed and others didn't perform as well. So the remedy became, let's come up with these systems or curriculums that no matter where you are in America, on the 37th day of school, we are teaching this same exact curriculum, whether your child is developmentally there or not.
That's just crazy to me, because every single child is so individual.
And teachers knew this at the time. And there were other constructs that started to be born around that time frame. When we come in, we want to see these standards in place. And if they're not, get ready to be written up, get ready to be in trouble. You may need to consider finding another place of employment. And so talk about the fear being instilled in educators who, by the way, went to school to be able to identify and diagnose with autonomy where this child is functioning and where we need to go next. It was taken away.
And that's why we have this generation of teachers right now who just don't feel the passion for their job anymore.
Why would I? You're just asking me to teach content and curriculum. You're not really asking me to teach anymore. I live on teacher blogs to understand what the problems are. I interview local teachers all the time to get the scoop, because I wrote a book called The Highly Valued Teacher. And I want them to see themselves as being honored, recognized, and I hear you and I know what it's like. And it didn't just end with No Child Left Behind. Like, eventually Common Core would come in.
And that's a disaster, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it was fascinating how they launched it. I remember being one of the younger schools or first school districts to try it out. And it was fascinating because they were introducing how to add money before they introduced how to add double-digit addition. So this is actually really a good example of how the current curriculums are still working. Here locally in Texas, we took like play kitchens and lots of tactile, kinesthetic, manipulatives and play and exploratory time out of kindergarten. We now want the kindergartners to be second graders. We want them to read, we want them to write at kindergarten. Keep in mind, all of these tendons and the muscles in this hand are not even developed. And we need them to be able to write a 1-paragraph narrative about a moment in life that was impactful.
Not only are they not developed, but one of the things I loved about the Montessori curriculum was that they had identified that children don't write in block letters first. They don't draw straight lines, right?
Yep.
How do babies and kids first draw? It's all in circles. So it actually developmentally would make more sense. Like if we're going to force them to write, shouldn't they be writing in cursive?
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I loved about the Montessori model is they had identified that, and they actually build that as a strength.
Yeah. For a kid who is struggling with more of those neurodivergent tendencies, who gets off task, there is a flow to the cursive that's really quite brilliant that assists them neurologically. So I agree, there's so many things that we keep trying to shift and change and make it better, and I just don't see that working. Eventually we have another administration that came in with excellence in education, and that was the administration that really started to make education more challenging. But it's almost like in America, we have this tendency to want to do more, faster, and truthfully, if we want children to conceptualize education, if we want children to have a chance of being able to build more logical reasoning and thorough understandings of a concept, we have to go deeper, not further.
And so we're missing this huge part of child growth and development, right?
Yeah.
So kids are not supposed to be in a classroom for 8 hours a day, sitting in a box, sitting still. It is not possible for them developmentally or neurologically. They're supposed to be outside. They're supposed to be touching things. They're supposed to be taking things apart. They're supposed to be getting dirty.
Yep.
These are all important things, and this is really where growth and development in the brain happens that is currently being stripped away from our children.
Oh, absolutely. And I keep seeing alternative schools opening all over the place. We were just approached by a couple of family members that are clients that would like to open some more models of what we do into a part-time school that's not a full-day institution. And yeah, we are all on the same page. We want our kids to learn what it's like to interact with their world through play.
Yeah.
I've never seen so many kids with dysgraphia diagnoses. This is new too. Do you know what they all have in common? Their proprioceptive skill, which is their body awareness, how much pressure to put or not put on a pencil, how to move something or not move it. It's completely delayed typically. And so they miss those intervention windows through that play to get there. So it's real fascinating to me that, through really pushing everything from like digital technology in the classroom and trying to push more advanced assignments because we really want to accomplish these more abstract concepts for our children. Well, we're leaving out mechanical learners. We're leaving out kids that need stimuli and need movement. We're leaving out kids who really do require a multi-sensory education.
Because all of us, we are so unique and we're all so different, and we have different learning methods and modalities, but we also have different sensory needs. And taking away recess, like I have kiddos in my practice, they're only in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and they have 20 minutes for lunch. How are you supposed to do that?
It's weird to me. We even had a kid today come to class, and they were stressed out when they came with their division homework. Mom was saying, can you please help them? We would already kind of plan to do that anyway because it was introduced recently, and she was just devastated. So was the kid, because his punishment today for not doing his division classwork quickly enough was, you're going to miss recess today. You're going to work through lunch.
And in reality, what they need is more recess.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition to that, what that scenario just did also, right, was fragment that child.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I always tell parents, if you have a child who is a proprioceptive learner or who is being diagnosed by a teacher as ADHD, especially under the age of 10, you have to make sure that you get them up before school and we exercise them, because we have to physically exhaust this age group before we try to challenge the brain.
Oh my gosh, I love you. That is actually how I have to function. I have to wake up, and even if I don't get out into the world because I did sleep in an extra 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, I have to do like 100 squats while I'm brushing my teeth or doing whatever it is to just get back in that body and exhaust. And it is so grounding for me to do so. I relate to these kids. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I get so frustrated when teachers and schools are telling parents that their 5-year-old has ADHD. I am going to say something that's probably a little controversial for a lot of people, and that is, I don't know a 5-year-old who wouldn't meet the criteria for ADHD.
I high five you.
Kids are supposed to be physically active.
Yeah.
They're just supposed to, and we were never intended to be inside of these boxes. I gotta say, even adults are not intended to be inside of a building all day, every day. Our ancestors were outside, and they were physical, and they were in the sun, and they were in nature. We really have harmed ourselves and our children by putting everybody inside of this box. I know myself, I don't get enough movement every day. As a therapist, I sit in a chair for hours sometimes. On the days that I don't have to work or that I can get up early and manage to get in a 5-mile walk before work, those are my good days.
Do you know what I've started to do, and parents have been loving it? Because we coach parents and we coach kids and teens. We've done walking therapy.
I love that.
It's been so great because, by the way, I need it too.
Yeah. And I have some kiddos I can do that with. Other ones are
some
not
of them
super
aren't ready for
comfortable.
it. Absolutely.
But if we could go outside into a forest, that is even better for therapy.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm really excited about, I guess, forest therapy is becoming an actual, field in the United States.
And I think even a prescription if you live in Japan.
Yes,
right?
They actually have, I forget the word for it, but forest therapy is something that they will prescribe to their citizens. And there are specific forests that they will prescribe you go to for this particular therapy, which is just amazing to me.
My heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm real interested. There's moments where I get into my education field and I'm like, all right, guys, let's go get it done. But last month, this forest therapy is triggering something for me. I was in the forest walking and I kept having my phone blow up, and it was weird because, some things are simply synchronistic. It was a staff member, a friend, also a relative, and an old client texting me some data about our current reading level in America. Our nation's report card came out. And they were sharing the same article. We're reading at 3rd grade level, graduating high school.
That is it.
But it makes sense to me when you tell me you have actual high schoolers who are not reading. And even in the neighborhood where I live, I come across these high schoolers and they're reading somewhere between a 3rd to 5th grade reading level. So it's not shocking to me. But here's the part that is shocking, and this is where I do want to bring this to your audience's attention. Approximately 2/3 of our nation is not reading proficiently, meaning we're not at least at 4th grade or higher, because our newspapers and media is typically written to 5th grade. In addition to that, about 2/3 of those 2/3, so now we're talking about a third of our population, will at some point end up on some type of welfare assistance or some type of jail time based off of whether or not they are reading with comprehensively reading by the 3rd grade. And so that statistic just probably got a little worse, because what I just said, that data mark was some years ago. With this new nation's report card, I'm assuming it might be a little worse. However, I want you to think of what a population who doesn't have that capacity to read,
What that looks like.
what that looks like in your job markets, what that looks like in their self-confidence, what that looks like in them wanting to pursue a job or a field. More importantly, I want you to think what that looks like for an entire population, an entire community of people in their mindset.
Right.
How they feel about themselves, how they show up every day, what they feel capable or not capable of doing. Yeah.
That has such a detrimental impact on life in general, because we actually have to read every day.
Every day.
It can be just a simple traffic sign, training materials for a job.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that's devastating for our country as a whole, actually.
Absolutely. And I do, and this is the kind of thing that I build my own urgency for. I get all excited about doing. I love seeing the transformation for our kids, but right now I'm in collaboration with a media company. We're looking to do a crowdfunding to start putting out education materials to train teachers. Because now officially I'm seeing we have a whole generation of teachers. They've only been teaching content and curriculum.
Right.
They've never had that autonomy to really level a child.
And so another thing that I have noticed, and we're actually seeing this in the area of brain research and development. So inside of neurofeedback, we have 50 years of brain research. How in recent years, the prefrontal cortex is not developing in American adults, okay? So it used to be, we would say, that women had a fully developed brain between 20 and 25.
Sure.
And that men, it was 25 to 30. Men are always a little bit behind us, but now that age has actually moved up.
To what?
Women are now 30 to 35. We're talking a 10-year difference in brain development.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of different theories. I do think that part of it falls on the education system.
Yeah.
Because teachers today do not teach you to learn. They teach you to a test.
Yeah, that's a big focus in
Yep.
America.
And when we're taught to a test, we do not know how to critically think. We memorize material, and then we forget it and move on to the next material we have to memorize.
Yeah.
That is playing a huge part in it, but then there's also the amount that we rely on electronics, and our children rely on electronics. So somebody asked me the other day, what's your phone number? Do you know, when I was a kid, I could recite my phone number like so fast. And I knew everybody's phone number.
Yeah.
Because if you wanted to talk to somebody, you needed to memorize that.
yeah.
There was not a little computer in your pocket that held on to it. I had to stop and think, what is my phone number? And I was like, wow, that is nuts to me.
That's incredible.
But we rely on those. We don't read maps anymore.
So true.
We memorize everybody's phone number and address by putting it into a device.
That is-
So it's impacting growth and development of our neural connections.
Gosh, I think that is on point. I also, to stay on the device for a minute.
Yep.
I also kind of feel like this is the first generation, because I work with a lot of kids daily, that I've ever recognized that they mostly function in receptivity. So they're only being bombarded with reels, shorts,
time.
more content. There's only so much the brain can really take, filter through all of that. So the mere process of having to build things like memory recall is fading for a lot of these babes that we've been working with. I see that it's weakening. See these neuropsych evals come to us, and somehow I'm getting more and more kids with short-term memory processing disorders or difficulties or obstacles. And another thing that I'm noticing, like even in the way that we're bringing in what we'll call AI-driven reading programs, same thing. These kids are either listening to the story, reading the story, going back to look for the answer. They're not having to engage in dialogue that would build more of that logical reasoning, build more of that frontal cortex, to give them more of this, the dynamic to be able to be that critical thinker.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really fascinating. I agree with you on so many parts with that. And I always feel like I'm aligned to you, Mary. Like every time I'm like, man, that lady, she's speaking the truth. And I think we have a shared calling, a shared mission to bring this information to individuals.
Absolutely.
So that they, it's not to give you another thing to do. It's possibly giving you another thing to maybe not.
So I recently read the book Anxious Generation. Have you read that?
I've just heard about it recently and put it in my cart.
So it is an amazing book that's talking about how phones and electronics are changing the neural connections in our children's brains and causing a generation of anxious people.
Oh, sure.
Again, because of that bombardment. But then it also, he like talks about the dopamine and the noradrenaline that's being involved in these processes of the scrolling.
Oh, sure.
Because every new video. But learning the way that it's supposed to be, right? We're supposed to learn by doing something challenging, and that giving us the dopamine and adrenaline and norepinephrine. Instead, right now, they're watching nonsense videos. And like I just checked out TikTok. I don't have it on my phone. I loaded it on the computer so I could see, because these kids are all coming into my office talking about TikTok videos. That is all rubbish. There is nothing on that platform that I came across that I was like, oh, this is something good and wholesome and actually educational. No.
Yeah.
And these kids have access to it at such young ages.
Oh my gosh, friend, it's wild to me. And then, if we look at just the semantics of that for a whole half second, there's so many other things I'm seeing impaired. And keep in mind, I'm not an expert in what I'm about to say, but I can't help to notice it as another marker. I really noticed that today's kids, to look at a screen or a phone, must have kind of a more direct focus towards the screen, may not be pinpointing various areas of the screen to eye team or for their eyes to converge, diverge. I've never seen so many eye teaming problems in my life. That's one thing. This is a new pencil grip. Have you ever seen this before? Just in the last 6-7 years? 6 or 7.
Your hand doesn't even work like
But you know what?
your phone.
An iPad or a phone. It's my first time seeing it. We have these negative correlations to writing. That's something else. I'm doing an article. I took 100 pictures of various hand grips over the last 3 months, and they were all wrong. So what's one thing that all these kids that had the incorrect pencil grip in common? They don't like writing.
No.
It
I can imagine that
hurts
this would make
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ow.
And that's just one of the grips, right? There's many, but there's just these little nuances that we're kind of losing track of, because even us as parents who are also addicted to the phone, we don't have the mental capacity to add another thing to our plate either.
Yeah.
Teachers too. Yeah. So as a generation, fine, they're the anxious generation, but I think that we're taking the lead as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you and learn a little bit more about your book or your tutoring services, how do they find you?
Sure, you can find our tutoring services. We're called Hearts and Minds Learning Center, located in Austin, Texas. My book that's coming up hopefully in the spring is called The Highly Valued Teacher. You can find that at thehighlyvaluedteacher.com, or my personal website that talks a lot more about my speaking platforms, coaching, and other endeavors is janetalexander.com. 3 points, my friends. That's how I used my ADHD.
Love it. And I will make sure that I have all of her contact information available in our posts when we put everything out on social media. So thank you so much for joining me today, Janet. I know you and I could actually sit and probably talk all day long about this subject.
We'll do it again.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to all of our viewers for joining us again. And please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and follow.